Thank you so much. Great to meet you all here today as well. Today we're pretty much going to be talking about pain relief, how to take a deep breath. Bit about me first. I like to talk about myself quite a lot, so we'll start with that one for starters. So my name's Ross Field. I'm a director of Fieldwork Health. I'm an educator, movement coach, physiotherapist, and also a beard specialist. Looks like I'm actually giving this guy a bit of a trim around the beard, but I'm not. That's actually doing some exercise, thankfully. Also love coffee. Coffee and me, if you buy me a coffee, I'll be yours for a lifetime. So if you want to get to know me, buy me a coffee. So what are we covering today? We're covering, first of all, why breathing? Absolutely. But how we do it is the most important part. How it influences pain and how to start. To the big things. So where did it all begin? That picture that you can't see in the background is a gym. And like most gyms, when you are a little bit younger and a little bit cocky, you think you're doing the right thing. So back in 2001, I was a state water polo player. The coach basically told us all to get strong. Yes, coach. So I went to the gym. I started doing my squats, started doing my presses, started doing my deadlifts, started doing my core, crunches, all that kind of stuff. And lo and behold, about 3 months later, when I was doing my deadlifts with the right technique, because I didn't want to ask for help because I was an arrogant little boy, I did my back in. So I set up for my deadlift, I got down ready to go, and lo and behold, I wasn't in this position, but it looks really good. I was about here, pulling about 110 off the floor. I felt a bit of a ping right in my lower back. Didn't really know what it was. So I thought I would jump on the floor and start to stretch. So I did my rotation stretches, I did my flexion stretches, I did my extension stretches, I did everything that I possibly could to make myself try and feel better. Who would have thought that's the worst thing I could have done to my back after I did an injury? A week later, after getting out of the bed and crawling to the toilet because I couldn't stand with raging back pain, I thought I'd better go get some help. So I went and saw my local physiotherapist before I was a physio. The answer from the physio was a back rub and a heat pack on my back for 4 sessions. I could have done that for myself for free. Who would have thought? Did I feel any better? Not particularly. So I went off to see someone else, and the answer from them was also back rub, heat pack, but he decided to leave the room to go treat someone else at the same time while I was going to get my heat pack on my back. Again, didn't really make me feel that much better. So down the pathway, I've seen sports doctors, I've seen GPs, I've had spinal injections, I've had all this wonderful kind of stuff to try and get myself fixed, and lo and behold, not much of it actually worked. Who would have thought? So I went down this journey to become a physiotherapist, to try and fix myself. And as most people that get into the profession love to do, is that they find there's a problem in the industry. They find there's an issue with the way things are currently done. So they try and educate themselves and learn themselves to see if there's a way they can firstly fix themselves to hopefully then help others along the way. So being a Year 12 dropout, I had to do Year 12 again, so I went through that process through Chewett College. That was a fun year. But I got into physiotherapy after that. I was stoked. Who would have thought the degree was not really what I expected? I wanted to help people, and all we got taught was a whole bunch of stuff that was about 20 years old. Getting into the industry was pretty cool. So starting off as a physiotherapist, we sort of got taught to try and get our hands on as fast as we physically can with clients, to try and get them on the table and rub their sore spot, because that's what we do to make people feel better. After 9 months of this, I started to sit back and going, everyone's sort of the same. I'm treating everyone the same way, but everyone is different. Why is there not a different way that I can actually approach these people that are coming in with similar pains, but different body types, different body shapes, different age, different genders and stuff as well? And that's sort of where it all began. When I started down my functional movement journey and my physiotherapy movement coach journey, this is pretty much the stuff they didn't teach you in uni. They didn't teach you that everything's connected. They did, how much can your elbow bend? Not how much can your body move as a unit. Strange, huh? That we're all a human being, not a human joint. So we really want to make sure that we are looking at people from the first point. After doing lots of ultrasounded transverse abdominis and pelvic floor exercise for 9 months, I figured out that that wasn't really for me, because first of all, I couldn't do it at home. I needed to spend $90 at my physio each time to go and kind of get the machine to make sure I can physically see what was going on with all my stuff happening deep down. when you go down this process of self-diagnosis and self-realization, you start to figure out that some things actually are happening to you as a specific person that are not exactly the way people should address. Everyone was treating me like I was a stiff person, that I had tight muscle tone. I've got bendy elbows. My thumb can go down and touch my forearm. My pinky can bend back to 90 degrees. I used to be able to touch my hands flat on the floor to bend forward. I'm the least stiff person you'll ever meet. Why is it that I was always getting stiffness treatments or muscle relaxing treatments? So the journey that I went on actually found there's a whole vast majority of people that things like massage and things like trigger ball work and things of those ilk are not that they're inappropriate, they're just not the most effective way to treat that person. Typically, people that are a little bit hyperflexible or hypermobile are normally females, and they're normally ex-dancers, ex-gymnasts that come through. Sometimes guys are a little bit of this as well, but there's also kids that are on this verge as well. So if I've got this much range, do I need to get more range? The answer would be no. I need to learn how to control this much range. If we look at Mark on the opposite, who's a little bit on the stiff side, he has this much range, but he has control of this much range. So he actually has 100% control of 100% of his range. Where me, when I actually had my back pain, I had that much control of that much range. So whenever I sat for too long, my back got worse. Whenever I stood for too long, my back got worse. Whenever I wanted to drive in a car for too long, it got worse again. I could not figure it out until someone actually went through and actually showed me the difference between what someone who is hyperflexible should be getting, strength, conditioning, control, breath, to someone who is actually very, very stiff, which should be getting massage, stretches, trigger ball with a bit of breath work in there as well. So who's had average experiences with a health professional before? Anyone? Yes. Guilty, yeah, same. I've seen them all. A lot of the times they're giving you the same tools in the toolbox for every single person that goes through. It's either a time thing, it's either that they're naive, or it's either a skills. They don't have the right tools in the toolbox to treat. If you've only got a hammer, you start to see everything as a nail. So this is why I think Martin mentioned the last one, is that looking after your own health and being your own doctor, essentially from that point of view, is actually really strong, because you live in your bodies every day. You know what you need. So when someone starts to give you stuff that you know you don't, you can start to educatively question, going, actually I've had some other advice that's probably not the right thing for me. So that's the easy thing to do. So that's where it all began. It began out of a place of frustration, a place of passive care, and a place of not knowing where the answers actually do lie. So I personally don't learn very much from Australian physiotherapists because we're all under the same system. I had to go to the UK, I had to go to USA, and I had to go over to places like Germany and stuff as well, because they don't really have boundaries of what they can do. Especially in America, you can think that as a physical therapist, most people that are there, and they're on a sports team, that sports team does $100 million a year. They want to do anything in their power to make sure the athlete's on the field every single day. In Australia, we don't really have privatised sport, so people don't really care about health. The old AFL boys will run out there regardless if their knee's going to fall off their leg, etc., etc. So that's a bit about where it all began. So why breathing? Sorry for the guys over here, I'll probably change sides. So the first thing with breathing is systems control. It controls a lot of different stuff. The next part, which I'll show you, is the body approach. It's called regional interdependence. It's about how one section relates to the other and how they all interconnect. The last part, the human factor. We are very unique creatures that do very unique things at very unique times, unlike the majority of other animals or sort of things in actually in this world. So systems control. Breathing equals systems control. The things that breathing can control is actually quite unique. There is a nerve that runs through our body called our vagus nerve, and that nerve controls a lot of our involuntary actions, like our heart rate. Also how much our blood vessels constrict and dilate, essentially. One of the only things that we can do to start to control that vagus nerve or control our breathing is actually, control our heart rate, etc., is through breathing itself. Has anyone ever exercised before and the people actually sort of start to put their hands on their legs and start to brace, etc., and want to sort of slow down their breathing and that kind of stuff? Have you guys done that before? What that actually does, it allows your body, when you have your hands braced, to use more of these muscles to help with the breathing action because you're pinning them on something. It's like when people walk around with their hands over their head. They're pinning their hands so the muscles around their shoulder girdle can start to lift and sort of drop their rib cage more so to get more air into the system because they're in a place of stress. So let's see how system control goes wrong. I've never been in that scenario, but I'm sure a few of you guys have. Did anyone get some of these through the day? We all do. So back on the last picture, this is what we call fight or flight response. So when you actually are in a situation that you have to either to fight or to flee, your body starts to create changes internally to get you ready to do that exact thing. It gets you ready to fight or to sprint away from the threat. So what it does, it preferentially puts the blood away from your organs and your brain and puts it out to your skeletal muscle on the outside so you've got more blood and energy going to those areas so you can fight and run faster. This is a little bit different. So we also, as human beings, probably one of the reasons why we actually got to where we are is we identify threats very well and we create a certain stimulus within ourselves to run away from that threat or fight the threat. It's no longer saber-toothed tigers, it's no longer avalanches, it's no longer all that kind of stuff that comes a part of it. This is the new saber-toothed tiger, this is the new avalanche, and this is the new stuff that we had through the day. When you get a phone call from someone that you don't like, you start a little fight or flight response inside yourself. When you get that ding of the email that comes through, your body starts to go and ramp up that little fight or flight response because now I've got a bit of a threat that I have to deal with. When you get that message on your phone, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I don't know how many there are anymore, but all these little things create a little urgency within ourselves to feel as though we have to react to them. And that actually creates a mini little fight or flight response for us. So instead of there being times to the day that we actually are quite rest and recovered, we actually are more so in this fight or flight response to the day, and you guys don't even know it. Ha, perf. I'm there, that's me. And I'm also in this fight or flight response at the moment going, I need to get home, please. So in scenarios and situations that you also can't control, you also have a bit of frustration that starts the stimulus too, sweaty palms, increased respiratory rate, all that kind of stuff. I've got kids, I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 12-month-old, and when they seem to wake up a lot at the night, I go into a fight or flight response. Who's ever woken up with their kids and you don't know where you are, what you're doing? Yeah, mums and dads, you can say that. You can actually walk around and go, what do I do, what do I do? And you don't know what to do. But just because you've woken up from that, that's a fight or flight response too. So you get quite, it feels like a kind of scattered response essentially. Your boss yelling at you as well, or demands at work, etc., or deadlines, those kind of things. So all of these little contributions through our daily life are actually putting us in a place of fight or flight, which is where we want to be the opposite, which is what we call rest and recovery. And I'll explain a bit of that later. Postures and positions as well. This is a big thing that we find a lot through the day, is that even though this is not exactly a stressed position, over 40 or 50 hours, it is. It's going to guarantee that's going to give you some problems there as well. So when we talk about the fight or flight response, does anyone know what the opposite is of that? Yeah, absolutely. So there's, it's called the parasympathetic response, or it's called rest and recovery, or it's called a lot of different things. So what happens when you're in this state, your body preferentially takes the blood away from skeletal muscle, brings it essentially back into your digestive system and to your brain. So it helps your blood actually circulate around your stomach to break down all those wonderful nutrients that you're putting in there. Once that breaks them down, you can put more building blocks back into the places that you've degraded through the day. So like skeletal muscle, joint, bone, hair, that kind of stuff too. So they're all things that your rest and recovery system actually wants to be. And it's not a quick change from one to the other either. It's actually quicker to change from your fight or flight response because that's how we identify threats, but it takes us longer to ramp back down to your rest and recovery, which I'll chat about how you can actually start that faster as well. So regional interdependence, everything connects. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that everything is connected with the human? It's just one of those bizarre things that as a physiotherapist, we sort of get taught that, yeah, it does, but we're not going to show you how. We want to know how much an elbow moves, or how much a finger moves, or how much your neck moves, etc. We don't want to know how much your hip moves in relation to your neck, or how much your feet move in relation to your hands or your neck or your shoulder. So everything is connected. Probably the best descriptions of this will be when Chris and Lee from the Blackroll guys actually come up with their fascial regional interdependence. They have a fascial matrix, which they'll show you as well, which is really, really cool. Basically, the premise is that if you have a problem somewhere and it starts to wind you up, it's going to pull from different places all around from the different areas. So it's going to take a bit from the hips, it's going to take a bit from the opposite, it's going to take a little bit of slack from the shoulder, the opposite shoulder, the neck, and also from the opposite back, and also down lower too. So this is what we call regional interdependence. Probably one of the ways that we approach clients in our clinic is we don't often look at pain. We find the problem, because the problem tells us why you've got the pain. If you want somewhere to go where they can rub on pain, you can do that yourself for free. So if you want someone to find the problem, they've got to have the skills and the tools to actually look at you as a person, to how you move, and not just going, oh, you've got shoulder pain, cool, let's just rub that and put a heat pack or a cold pack on it. So they're the big things. The human factor. Everything you do is training your body. Whether it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, it's going to do it better next time. Who gets pain when they stand for too long in the low back? Yeah, guilty, a few people. Who gets pain in the lower, guilty as well? Yeah, who gets pain in the lower back when they sit for too long in the lower back? Yeah, a few people. What I found before I was a physiotherapist, I was a public servant. I was a Centrelink worker at Mirrabooka Centrelink. That was, and I actually went from South Hedland Centrelink to Mirrabooka Centrelink, and that was a game changer for me, absolutely game changer. Hence, I've become a physio, because if you work a job that's pretty dead end, you get inspiration pretty quickly. When everything is training, what I didn't know is that I was sitting in what my wonderful posture would be, being 6'3" at a computer desk for 40 hours a week, which is probably one of the reasons why when people treated my back, I was actually causing it more problems here than the benefits of them actually treating my spine. So it's those little hints and tips along the way that actually cause a big issue. Next time you're in front of a mirror, have a look at your elbows. Your body does not lie. I didn't know that I had a whopping callus on my left elbow, and my right one was as smooth as a baby's bum. Because where was I? Leaning on my left arm, using the computer for 40 hours a week. That elbow was creating a dysfunction through my whole body and creating a list and a lean that I didn't realise. And even to this day, because I've done it for 10 or 15 years, I catch myself like, I did it again. It's so hard to change, but you've just got to catch yourself when you do these things. So what I want you guys to try and do is try and notice and realise all those little small things that you're doing through the day that are habit. Because you won't know you're doing it differently, because your body has been trained to think it's absolutely normal that you do it. Sitting with your leg crossed, leaning forward when you do stuff, texting really low when you're down here. Microphone's really close. So everything you do is training, and your body will do it better next time, whether it's the right thing to do or not the right thing to do. Okay, so just think about that as well. Trivia time. What do you think these numbers are? What's the top number, do you think? Obviously talking about breathing, so it's got something to do with that. So that's how many breaths you do in an hour. What's the next one, do you think? Absolutely, and how much is that? That's a year. So it's 8.5 million. 960 a day on average, that's with non-exercise. So when you exercise, you start to breathe harder and faster, yeah? So these are really big numbers. So everything we do is training. Imagine breathing the wrong way. Imagine breathing wrong for 960 reps per day. Imagine not breathing the right way for that's per hour, sorry, I should say. Imagine doing it for 23,000 per day and then 8.5 million per year. So this is where it starts to add up. It's not that breathing is hard, it's the volume of it that we do that starts to become a little bit of a challenge. So the influence on pain, this is really cool stuff. When I was actually going through and learning more about these things, is that how breathing modulates our heart rate. It actually modulates how we sensitize to pain as well. I did a cool study when I didn't do it myself, but I was a part of a study back at uni where they actually sleep deprived you to see how much sensitive you were to pain the next day. And who's been sleep deprived and sensitive the next day? So it's pretty much a given that you're going to be more pain sensitive at the same time. But what they did, they got a certain pressure gauge on your thigh and pressed it in until you started to feel discomfort, and they actually measured how much pressure they were putting on. They sleep deprived you that night, pressed in the same spot, and lo and behold, everyone was more sensitive to pain the next day. Who would have thought that one? But on the contrary, good sleep actually makes you less sensitive for pain the next day. And good breathing actually helps you get good sleep. So it all starts to add up. Increases your mood, and it also increases your recovery. The reason why it increases both these things is because when you actually are in a state of rest and recovery, you actually feel a lot better, you feel less stressed, your heart rate's not working as much, and you feel in a place of calm. So your mood automatically improves from that point of view. With the last one for your recovery, going back into your rest and recovery, it brings your blood back into your organs, it helps you digest and process food, which then helps it go back out to your muscle system. For example, I had a client actually come through yesterday who, he's a PT, so he works out quite a bit, but he's actually getting into doing some martial arts. And when he comes through, he was like, oh yes, I'm doing a little bit of martial arts. I was like, oh yeah, cool. And how often are you training in the gym? Oh, I'm doing 5 gym sessions a week. I said, okay, what's your intensity? He goes, oh, always about 7 to 9 for my gym sessions. And he lifts pretty heavy, this kid. I go, well, how much are you doing for your martial arts? And when did you start? Oh, I started 4 weeks ago. I'm doing 7 sessions a week. Well, 7 sessions a week plus 5 sessions a week on top of that. That's a lot. I can't even count that high. That's a lot of sessions. So that's 12 sessions a week of doing 2 hours of exercise per time. So he was in a place that was sensitizing to pain, his mood was low because he couldn't recover that well, and he was also just burning himself from end to end because he did not give himself enough time in between sessions for his body to digest food to put it back into his muscles so he can go and lift weights and exercise the next day. So he was on a bit of a downward spiral, that kind of stuff. So he didn't gradually go into his martial arts, he went from 0 sessions to 7 sessions a week, which is a fair whack. So how to start? Time check? Oh, got it. So how to start? So they've done some pretty cool research with this. They did what they call attentive deep breathing, where you have someone telling you how to deep breathe. And they also did some research on the contrary of how to do your relaxed, deep, slow breathing. Guess which one won? Do you guys like being told what to do? Relaxed, slow breathing trumped it big time. So relaxed, deep, slow breathing on your own terms, on your own pace, beat when someone was actually telling you to inhale through your nose and hold and exhale and all that kind of stuff as well. So this is actually the easiest way for you guys to start up. One of the things to watch for in regards to deep breathing, I'll just have a cheeky look at the next one, is where your breath is going. Where do you think your breath goes when you're in a stress place? It goes up really high in the shoulders and the neck. So unfortunately, the muscle that we have in through our neck and our shoulders, they're neck and shoulder muscles. They're not breathing muscles. They're breathing muscles when we're doing exercise or exerting ourselves. So they're like a backup system, essentially. So they're designed to help lift your rib cage when you're in a place of increased heart rate or that kind of stuff. Normal day-to-day breathing, these should be super relaxed. You should not see anyone's necks getting really tight through the day. Where else we actually congregate this stress and this actual muscle tone is in the base of our skull. Headaches, anyone? Hydration first. They did some good studies between hydration and manual therapy, and hydration won. So that's always number one, and then you look for therapy at the end to make sure that's not the case. When we start to do 960 of these per hour, these start to overload. And who would have thought the little muscles in the base of your skull are about the size of your pinky nail? And what they're designed to do, they're designed to keep your head on top of your shoulders. But where do we put our head? So now they're breathing for you and holding a 5 to 7 kilo object that's looking forward up in this place. All of these guys, if I press really quite firm on one of these spots, it refers to your temple and behind your eye. If I press a little bit closer, it refers to the base of the skull and above your ear. There's another one for you down the neck that refer to the base of the skull. So this is why we don't treat the source of pain. We go to where the problem actually lies. And funnily enough, the deeper problem comes from the repetitions that you guys do through the day, not typically because you have a tight muscle. So what we normally do is ask why enough, and you deep dive into why you've actually got the issue in the first place. I'm an ex-sore. Why? Oh, because it's just getting tight and moving through. Oh, why? Oh, because I sit all day. Oh, why do you have to sit all day? Oh, because that's my job. Oh, so you're getting paid to get put in pain. That's nice. Okay. So how to start? So crocodile breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, nose versus mouth. So crocodile breathing is the easiest one to do in the world. It's so simple. I'll use Mark as an example. So crocodile breathing is a thing that, when we talk about breathing, we want to bring breath down more so down low in through your midsection. This is your backup. This is your main fuel tank. You want to be using this guy more so. Who's seen a Buddha, the little fat belly Buddha? Yeah, that's what we want to do for breathing. And who would have thought, aesthetically, it's not exactly appealing to breathe well. Because when you aesthetically want to hold in, you start to recruit opposite muscles throughout because the magazines told us that's what we should look like. Who would have thunk it? So, breathing is what we want to try and do. Thank you, sir. Ooh, yeah. All right, so you are a bit sweaty, mate. So when we breathe, we actually want to be relaxing our stomach as much as possible and thinking about pushing this hand forward and letting it sink in and out. Hey, it's been practicing. We don't want to lift up through your shoulders and breathe in. Lift, get the tightness and stuff to the front of your neck. So whenever you do relaxed slow breathing, it should be like you're literally melting into the floor to kind of get these things done. I might just get you laying on the floor there, Mark, if that's okay. So the easiest way that we start off is by doing what we call a crocodile breath. And you can either go hands flat facing the floor like Mark is. I preferentially like to put my hands across my forehead so my nose doesn't smash into the floor. But what we're trying to do is we want to make sure, first of all, that you are relaxed. And do you think Mark's relaxed at the moment? How can you tell? Let him go. Let him go. There we go. That's how you know someone's relaxed. Hands, feet, legs. Your shoes are sexy, don't worry about it. So from this point of view, when we start to do crocodile breathing, have you guys seen a crocodile, how they lay on the ground, etc., and you see their belly just going outwards and upwards, etc.? That's exactly what you want to do here. So all I'm going to do is put my hand on the lower back of Mark, and we should just see it rise and fall. What we don't want to see is this moving up and forward this way. The good thing with this position is that the floor gives you feedback of where you've got to press. Straight away you know that you've got to press your belly into the floor because that's where you want your breath to go. The hardest part when you breathe when you're standing is you don't quite know where to press. So the floor gives you instant feedback of where you've got to start to put that breath through. So we want to push your belly into the floor, slowly lift your back off the ground when you go. And I want you to relax your back even more so, mate. You are so tense today, understandably. Good, and breathing back out. How long do you think? How many reps? How many breaths? There's no magic number. Start with 5. Next time do 6. Next time do 7. Next time do 8. Just like with anything that we do, we want to do enough that we start to get an effect or a benefit from it. Cheers. And cheers, mate. You can hop up. So and it literally takes that long. And you, as a clinician, as a physiotherapist, I can't overcoach that because it's not for me to coach. It's for him to figure it out. I want you to feel it here, put your hand on here, breathe there, you just stand back and let it happen. It takes him a few breaths to try and figure out where it should actually go. So that's crocodile breathing. And do you need any equipment for it? Do you need any special little apps or gadgets or timers? No, it's so easy to do, except in your workplace it looks pretty weird. So at home is typically a nicer place to do it. You know what the best thing is? That when you walk out of a gym session or out of any kind of exercise, how do you think you should feel? Should you be crawling out in death's door? Or should you be feeling rest and recovered? You should be ready to face the day after you've done exercise. You shouldn't be feeling as though you're going to be put into an early grave from it. So I get all of our clients to do about 30 seconds to a minute of just quick, easy crocodile breathing at the end. They actually stand up going, I feel really good, time to get on with the day. Rather than wiping their brow going, I've got to go, I've got kids and I've got family and work and that kind of stuff. So it brings them into this rest and recovery phase in a minute. It is that quickly. Anyone having problems going to sleep? Getting to sleep? Some people? So one way to do that is to get yourself into rest and recover faster. Hot shower, a light, gentle foam roll just to get your parasympathetic system to kick in, and about a minute's worth of breathing. Penguin dive into bed, and hopefully that's a nice way to get your body to get out of this flustered high sort of stress phone kind of alerty kind of life that we live majority. Nose versus mouth. If you have a deviated septum in your nose and you can't breathe through your nose, please breathe through your mouth. It's not a bad alternative. If you have an option to breathe through your nose and it's not congested, etc., nose is trumps. The reason why nose is a lot better, because when we breathe in through your mouth, I'm going to get you guys to do this in a sec, it's a very short, fast pathway to your upper volumes of your chest. When you breathe in through your nose, you've got to draw that air harder, so you've got to draw it lower down into your diaphragm, into the lower parts of your belly. So everyone's standing up for me. Breathing helps with, standing helps with breathing too. So take a big breath in with your mouth for starters, and I want you to feel where it goes. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, in through the mouth. Where's it go? Yeah, chest, shoulders, lift your shoulders up a bit, etc. Now breathe back out, because you can. And now on the count of 3, a nice big slow breath in through your nose. So breathing in, nice and steady. Do you see it change a bit? Where'd it go now? Comes lower, huh? So breathing in through your nose, what this does is your nose is a natural, what we call a restrictor plate. You have to forcefully draw it in a little bit harder, so you've got to earn the breath a bit more, but it goes to the right place. So whenever you're in a stressed environment and you are panting, that's all basically fight and flight. You're going to burn yourself out by being in that place. So what I want you to do now is the easiest way to learn is actually to feel, okay? So with your hands, I want your hands, one to go on the top of your chest and one just to go on your belly down here. And when you're breathing through your nose, I want you to try and think about drawing it into the bottom hand first, and this hand up top should be last if you're having a deep breath, okay? So it should look something like this. And for all those people that have mastered it, you can put your hands on the sides. And what the hands on the sides does, it actually gets you to breathe in for width. And makes you relax throughout. Because it's really hard. What's your name, sorry? Lauren, great. Can I use you for a second? Yay, thank you, Lauren. Woohoo! So it's really hard if I was to stand here and go, breathe there, breathe there, breathe. Can you breathe there for me? Breathe there. Can you breathe out here now? Breathe out here. How about this side? It's hard, isn't it? So feedback is the key. Because if I was to say, right, can you just put your own hands on here and here? What I want you to do when you breathe in, I want you to feel your hands widening when you breathe in. But use your breath to push them apart. Good. So it's out. In you go. Nice. So when you've got your own feedback tools that are free, you can easily use them to quickly train your own self of where the breath should be going. Great, thank you so much. So that's breathing in a nutshell. There are so many other complicated techniques you can do. Crocodile breathing and just breathing diaphragmatically, the easiest and most effective, because you can do it for reps through the day for free. This is the best part of it. So, where to start? Car, transport, walking, gym, work, pre-sleep. You can get paid and breathe at the same time. When I found that out, that was amazing. So these are all wonderful places where you can start to do it. I like the car and the transport because you're not really doing much else there. So when you're actually at a set of lights, you can start to breathe in that position anyway, because you shouldn't really have that many distractions. Who would have thought when you're on public transport that you could actually be standing right next to someone and breathing and doing exercise? They have no idea at all. And by the way, you're not going to be going... It's just small, slow breaths. It doesn't have to be huge breaths to hyperventilate. I've tried that in the bus and people actually give you some weird looks. Post-gym, post-workout, it's the best way to make you... who feels good after yoga? That's an hour of breathing training. Who would have thought? You can do it for a minute straight afterwards for basically free. So today we've covered why breathing. We've mentioned how breathing and being in rest and recovery phase influences your pain and actually makes you less sensitive to it. Every type of pain. This is the best part. And how to start. It's easy. Start doing it. And when I think Martin's had a chat and Damien's also had the chat too, it's about small steps, about small changes. So it's trying to put it into your life where you can actually start to do it the most conveniently. Me personally, it's after the kids are gone to bed and I've got nothing else to do. Every ad break, I just do a bit of breathing when I'm watching some telly. That's it, one of the easiest ways of bringing it through your day. Fantastic, guys. Thank you so much.